Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of YHB TV, your handmade business television. I am Sharon Payne, the co-director of Academy of Handmade, and your co-host for this show, along with Isaac Watson, who's the other co-director and co-host.
Co-conspirator.
Co-conspirator.
Hi, everyone.
All of the above. We are here today with our last YHB TV of October on the theme of determined. And so we are going to be talking about, are you giving up on the sale? Which basically is talking about, are you giving up way too easily on selling your stuff at a craft show? Last week we talked about why you're not getting into gift guides. And the week before that, we keep forgetting what the week before is, Isaac. What was the week before?
Getting in the way of your own success. Yes!
Oh, getting in the there you go.
Are we getting in the way of our own success by forgetting what we've talked about, Sharon?
Yes, totally. So those have been the themes for this month's discussion on determined. If you missed any of that, you can watch it on the replay. If you go right above our heads, it says schedule session 3 of 3 is what today is, and you can look back and see the other sessions, but don't do it now because then you will be starting to watch the other stuff and not watch this live broadcast, assuming you're watching it live. So, yes, you can go ahead and watch those. If you are in the chat, if you are here watching us live and you are feeling bold and brave, go ahead in the chat area and say hello. Give us your name, what you are making, and where you live, so we can know a little bit more about you. So today we're going to talk about, are you giving up the sale? And it's a lot of dealing with psychological stuff. So you want to talk about that a little bit more, Isaac?
Yes, but first I would love for you all to fill out our poll, which if you click on the polls button down at the bottom of the video, there's a little 1 badge there. You can fill that out. We want to know what makes you the most uncomfortable about selling your work in person, because there's got to be something, right?
Yes.
And I'm curious to see what your responses are, because I think there are probably some pretty common things, but I want to confirm my theory.
Yes. Don't be shy, guys.
Fill out the poll. Anyway, while you're working on that and while you're introducing yourselves in the chat, and I know I've got to have some Portland people representing today, so give me a shout out, if you will. I want to talk a little bit about why you might be giving up on the sale. And this is specifically talking about craft show sales, selling in person at fairs or markets or what have you. This also applies to selling yourself to a potential wholesale buyer or another, if you're doing a trade show or something like that. Any other situation where you are in charge of making money for yourself. Because the truth is that maker business is very, very personal. And I talked about this a little bit on the podcast recently. I've also seen a lot of discussions within our community about this kind of personal connection that you have with your work. But your creativity is what you're pouring into your products. And so that also means that you are in your products. So when you come upon criticism or rejection in selling your work, it's really, really easy to take that personally and to feel like you are personally being rejected or criticized, not that your work is. And so I think what happens around that, there's a lot of fear of rejection, a lot of fear of criticism. But what that ends up resulting in is is giving you the sense that you're already feeling afraid of being rejected or feeling rejected. And that psychologically can influence your ability to actually make sales in person. So we're going to dissect that a little bit and hopefully give you some tools to bolster your ability to actually sell your work. So I spent a number of years working retail in various capacities, both like retail product sales, but also retail services. And so I've done a lot of customer service. I've done a lot of selling products and selling packages and projects and things like that. So this is something that I know pretty well myself, and it's a little bit different. I know a lot of you have most people have worked retail in their lives. It's a very common thing to do, and the difference between working retail and selling your own products is that when you're working retail, you're not selling yourself. You're selling some whatever clothing or shoes or what have you, for someone else. And so you're distancing yourself. It's just a job, right? So it's a little bit different when you're selling your own products because it's you. You're putting your identity and yourself and your personality into your work, and so you're directly tied to your products and to whether. Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. You are directly linked to your products, and the reason why people buy is often influenced by who you are. So we've talked a little bit in our Jumpstart program and a couple other things that we do about how people buy into your story, especially with handmade work. They're buying why you make something or why something is unique, and so it's a little bit different relationship and buying process than going into a store, finding something that they like or that fits, looking at a price, and then taking it up to the register. Okay, so I'm digressing a little bit. Let's get a little bit more into actually selling your work at a craft show or in person. So first of all, everyone that you see coming by your booth or coming through the market is a potential customer. But not everyone is the right customer for you. And if you flip that around, that you are not the right product or right person to be buying from for everyone. So I think the first step to kind of breaking down this fear of rejection or this uncomfortableness selling yourself and selling your work is feeling okay with the fact that you don't have to sell everyone. You don't have to convince everyone. People will say no, and that's okay, because either it's not the right time, or they're not looking for something that you offer, or they're just there to look, or whatever. There's a million reasons why they might not buy. So first, get past the idea that everyone should buy from you, because that's just not true. So the second thing is, I think the second thing that you can do to really bolster your self-confidence is feeling really comfortable talking about yourself and your work. Now, there are two ways that you can do that. One is by really having a solid understanding of what your story is. You need to know it by heart. What is the whole reason why you are making? Why are you there at that market today? Is it because you have a passion for the products that you make? Do you believe in the handmade lifestyle? Are you whatever that is, you need to know it by heart. And I don't just mean memorize a pitch. A lot in the small business world, we focus a lot on elevator pitches, but first of all, if you're saying that elevator pitch over and over and over again to everybody that comes by your booth, you're going to start losing the meaning in it because it just becomes repeated for you. But knowing your story by heart is something that people can read in your face and in your facial expressions, in your what's the word? Oh my goodness. gestures, your body language, there we go, your vibes, they'll get it. So they know if they're being pitched to, basically, because customers are smart. So that's the
possession in that one too. I think instead of thinking about memorizing, like thinking about knowing your story by heart versus memorizing a pitch, right? Like after you said, like after a while, it'll just be like rote and you've like said it a million times and whatever. Like I think understanding your story, like the touch points of it, helps you the most. So if you can like think of it in like when you're like studying for a test or something and you have like flashcards with like the main idea of a topic or something, and then the back of it is like the more detail, you just want like the front of a flashcard, right? Like you want like the main topic is like, okay, this is the story of my business. I do this because of this, with this. That's why it's special, or what, you know, thinking about like the major points of it instead of like a script.
Right. Yeah, precisely. And that leads to the second part of talking about yourself is knowing why your products are different or unique or special. Maybe it's a technique you use that you learned from your grandmother that's not around anymore. Maybe it's a unique selection of materials with an eye for sustainability. Whatever that differentiating factor is, you need to know that so that you can communicate to your potential customers. Because a lot of times they're going to walk up to your booth and they have no clue. They're discerning, but they need to know, they need explanation of what they're seeing.
I think especially too at a craft show where you're like maybe the 19th ceramic or macrame booth they've seen that day, right? Like you want to kind of like give them a little something to like understand a little bit better about why it's different or special or not like the other stuff that they've walked around and seen all day. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be materials. It could be you or whatever, the process, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest craft show here in Portland is like 200 plus vendors. And like my eyes are glazed over by the time I get down the first aisle. Yep. So, you know, it's just, you have to understand the context of what people are experiencing as they walk through this like overstimulation of visual things and noise and everything like that, and really help communicate that value of your product so that they understand why you're there, and why they should look at what you have to offer. Hi, Holly. Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you, or to see your chat. I guess I can't actually see you. So Holly says customers have a game plan when they shop that show. Yes, that is true. So that particular show in Portland, Crafty Wonderland, a lot of the repeat customers that come through, they have looked at the vendor list in advance and they're like plotting out which booth they're going to go to. And you know, it's almost a game for them. So you know, if they don't know who you are already and you're not on their list, you need to find a way to like jump out at them, or you know, communicate what you do and what your products are really quickly so you can maybe catch their attention. Okay, so that's all about talking about yourself and your work. So you need to have a good understanding of your story and what makes you and your products unique so that you can feel comfortable talking about that with people. The better you know that, the better chance you're going to have of articulating that to someone who has no idea who you are, and capturing their attention. Okay, so the third major point is the process of selling. And this sales scares a lot of people, because I mean, there's that Glengarry Glen Ross video, it's always be closing, and it was Alec Baldwin, and I can't remember who else is in that, but it's just like this high intensity, like you've got to make the deal and close the sale and get the commission, and like that's a completely different kind of sales. In a lot of ways, that type of sales has died. and is not the kind of sales that you're going to be doing at a craft show. So just put that out of your mind.
I hope not. Gosh, I'd like to see a Glengarry Glen Ross craft sales tactic one day, though. Right? That was so awesome.
Oh, that would be a great SNL sketch, Holly. That,
yes.
Alec Baldwin reprises, but like,
oh my gosh,
it's like,
yes,
it's like
yes.
Alec Baldwin in Portlandia.
Yes. How do we make this happen? I just see some like craft show event. Yeah, right. I see like that, like the angry bike messenger that what's his face? Will whatever. What's his name? No. From Portlandia.
I can't think of his name.
Why can't I think of his name? I don't know. I just see the angry bike messenger. Fred Armisen, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred Armisen getting really angry at someone at a craft show. Trying to sell them on something. Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to do that.
Anyway, maybe that's a like next season on YHB TV.
Yes.
We'll start doing this or something.
It's over. Shell art is over. That is what I was thinking.
Anyway, selling at a craft show is really about having a conversation. And if you can think about it that way, I think it's going to reduce a lot of the anxiety that can arise around actually selling your work, especially because a lot of creative people, a lot of makers are introverted. And so it's really hard to feel like you're putting yourself out there in this vulnerable way. That's like, look at me, here's my stuff. That's not going to be effective at selling things, even though it seems like that's what you have to do. So
like being on your phone the whole time while you're in your booth and customers are coming in isn't the best way to sell.
No, I am totally guilty of doing that.
Oh, Danny said makes me think of the Portlandia sketch. She's making jewelry now. Totally.
Can I make a quick confession? I hate Portlandia and have seen very, very little of it because it's too close.
I get that.
I find it not funny. I just find it to be true and depressing. But that's because I was born and raised here, and it's just a little too close for me. Anyway, hi, Arrow, and hi, Danny. Thanks for joining us. Anyway, I'm digressing again. So let's get back to selling as a conversation. So there are a couple steps in this process that I think will help you kind of break this down into more achievable, more approachable ways of doing this. So first of all, someone walks up to your booth and you've got to break the ice. And that can be as simple as saying hi and making eye contact, which I think is important. You know, make that physical connection with people. Smile at them. Another thing you can do is you can compliment them or say something nice about, you know, maybe their style or their, you know, whatever it is that they're wearing. And just break that ice and get it out there. You can make a little small talk depending on, like, you know, if they pause and they start perusing your things, especially if you make small work that you have a lot of things to look at, that's a great opportunity to make some brief small talk about the weather or crack a joke or what have you. Hi, Brandy. It's nice to have you here. Yes, be genuine. Don't compliment just to get in good with people. They can sniff out fakes. I completely agree. Yeah, make sure you like the scarf they're wearing before you tell them that you love it, because they'll see right through it. So that's a great way of starting. Just break the ice. If they stick around after that, because you'll usually be able to tell pretty quickly, are they just like scanning, judging, moving on, which is totally what I do when I walk a show. I'm just like, not for me. Okay, oh, this is interesting. Let's look at this. If they're sticking around for a little bit, then you want to just learn more about what they're doing, because you are here to find a solution for them. So you want to learn more about who they're shopping for. You're going to ask them questions from what kind of style they like, or if things get a little further along, what their budget is for the person they're shopping for. I'm thinking specifically about the holiday craft fairs where people are often buying gifts. And sometimes, like, I know I'll go to a craft show and I know, oh, I need to find a gift for my brother. But he doesn't necessarily appreciate handmade goods, and so he's hard to shop for. But I really want to get him something handmade, so I know, okay, well, he really likes cars and this, that, and the other, and I need a little help and a little counsel finding something for him. Let's see, we've got lots of chat action here. So Matilda says, I often notice people who, as soon as you talk to them, they feel interrupted and stop looking. I never know when to talk and when not to. You know, that's a really great point, Matilda. I think that you have to learn how to read people. And I think that's why that initial icebreaker is helpful, by just seeing how they respond. There are definitely people, like, I'll walk into shops sometimes, and if there's somebody, a salesperson hovering around me and asking me a bunch of questions, I'll shut down and walk away, because I don't need your help right off the bat. But I think it is important to break that ice and let them know that you are there and that you see them, and give them the opportunity to acknowledge you and to engage a little bit.
Yeah, because I do think there are people that want to get in and want to get out, like you said. So they're just not even, they're going to try to avoid making eye contact with you. And then there are people who I do think are just like, I want to shop in peace and I'm thoughtful and I can do this by myself, guys, please don't talk to me. And then there are people that, like, yes, let's talk about everything. Like, they're there for that. Like, and I think it's easy to treat everyone like the don't talk to me people, because those people, like, right, like, you've easily read them and, you know, right, like, you can just treat everyone like that and you don't have to worry about the fear of rejection. But like I said, like, reading people is key. Holly says, I've worked retail for years and it's a matter of learning how to read them. Look at their body language. If it's closed, a subtle hi will suffice. Reading them and feed off their energy. It's so true. And I think that's what's hard is, so going back to, like, this is all personal. And so it's hard to read. I do think sometimes this is when, like, having a booth buddy or a sales assistant or someone there that day can be helpful to sort of balance out the energy in the booth, I guess. So that the person there, obviously, like, what you don't want is both of you being like, oh my gosh, hi, what's going on? Like, can I help you? What are you looking for? What's your budget? Like,
I like that you jumped into the camera when you did that. That's really good.
Like, because we don't want that in our lives. But, like, sometimes having somebody else that has distance can help, and who can better read it without your weird emotions about life and your products and how long the day is so far for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, once you do find someone that opens up, that's your opportunity to dive a little deeper and ask questions, and probe gently for more information that might help you make a recommendation. So as you do that, you're going to have to evaluate, you know, what their responses are and how engaged they are and how much they want to talk, and then figure out if you need to ask more questions, or if you can say, oh, well, you know, have you seen these? Or these are brand new, things like that. Any way you can just carry on that conversation a little bit, I think will be helpful. And then it comes down to actually making the sale. So you've got somebody who's been browsing for a while. Maybe they're hemming and hawing over a couple of different options, or they're not sure, you know, if somebody's going to like it. At some point, you have to actually ask for the sale, unless they're like, I want to buy this, which is great. But not, some people need to be prodded a little bit. And so there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can kind of say open-endedly, what do you think? Like, what do you think of this? Or if they're trying to choose between 2 or 3 things, well, what do you like about this one versus that one? And help them talk it through, because sometimes people just need to talk it out, and feel like they're making a wise decision instead of a rash one. There are those who like to impulse buy and those who don't. And then you can help kind of tease out their feelings and then make a more confident recommendation that way. Another thing you can say is, can I box this up for you? Can we get to that next stage in a little bit of a gentle way? And if they say no, I still want to look, or no, I think that's it, then that's okay. They're done.
Or if they've got a lot of bags in their hands and they're maybe like carrying some of your stuff, you can say, do you want me to hold that for you while you keep looking, or, things like that, so that it kind of nudges them to the next step a little bit. But I think that's the time, like, when you think about your expertise that you have about like whatever your product is and being helpful with the next step of it. Like, oh, guys really enjoy this scent of ours that you might have in your candles or something, or like, oh, that's really popular with gifts for moms, or like, oh man, girlfriends love to buy this for their boyfriends, or whatever. Like, there's plenty of things that I think that you can kind of like help your audience better understand it. Or you can say like, oh, did you also know you can use this as a blah de blah? Like, if whatever about your product that they might not know about, I think is helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love to. Brandy, I'm really glad you've joined us today, because I know you've done like a bajillion and one shows, and you also organize some. What I would love to know, if you have any tips or tricks for people that are at like the hangover phase at the end of the show.
Oh my gosh, they're like glazed over. Yeah,
when your own eyes are glazed over, like how do you power through? And is it coffee? Is it booze? Is it something else?
You making some Irish coffee back there?
I used that to get through one show because it was like 45 degrees and raining and outdoors.
You got to do what you got to do. Everyone says chocolate. Whatever you have to do, treat yourself by the end. So the poll, what makes you the most uncomfortable, while we're waiting if possibly Brandy wants to answer that question. What makes you the most uncomfortable about selling your work in person? One person said being criticized. Another person said asking people to buy. And two asking people to buys. And then another person says other. I'm interested in what this other is.
Yeah, if you said other, that's okay, Brandy. We're just curious if you have any tips on how to handle the end of a craft show when your own eyes are glazing over and you become a craft show zombie. How do you stay on top of things?
Oh my gosh. Danny said coffee. I had to kick my boyfriend out of my trade show booth. He fell asleep and fell off the chair. Oh my gosh. That's cool.
And Brandy uses coffee and singing show tunes in her head. So Brandy, I think you should sing them out loud at your next show. I'm just saying. You might attract some interesting buyers that way.
Definitely.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Cannot be grumpy while singing Into the Woods. This is true.
Yeah. So, ultimately, I think, a lot of the reason why we are uncomfortable rather, selling our work in person is that we have this fear from the outset that we're going to be rejected or criticized, or that it's going to be this awkward conversation. I think going through some of these scenarios in your head in advance and creating your own game plan for, things that you can do at a show to engage with people, ways that you can talk about your work, feeling really confident with your story and with what makes your product unique, are really going to help set you up for success in a way that that will help you sell, essentially. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Sharon?
I do not. Other than good luck with craft show season, guys.
Does anybody have any questions? I've got a little special bonus link I want to send you all, but I want to answer any questions.
Oh, yeah.
First. because I think it might go a little off the rails.
Yeah. So while we're still talking about this, if craft shows are giving you somewhat anxiety, or you know that your booth is in need of a major refresh, we are doing a webinar next Thursday with Lib Ramos from Indie Craft Parade. Makers Collective one was in my head. Makers Collective and Indie Craft Parade. She is one of the producers of that show, and we're going to be talking about making your booth one that sells your products for you at shows. Yeah. So you don't want to lose the sale because of an ugly booth, basically. So craft show help.
Yeah. Matilda says she would love to know how to get more email signups from in-person shows. That is a great question. I think that's also, oh, what am I doing? Sorry, I got a screen in front of me now and I can't get rid of it. There we go. Okay, sorry. That's a tough one, especially, you know, if you put out like a sign up list on the table or something, it can often get lost among the products. I think that your best opportunity is to ask people who are buying from you if you can add them to your newsletter. I don't know if it's the case now. I know like a lot of people use Square to process payments. Do they still not give you customer emails? I know they used to not. Do you know, Sharon?
I do not know currently.
I can't remember. I don't know if that's changed or not. Anyway, so you can either you know, have a sign up sheet right there, like Holly suggests, and let them sign it. Oh, that's great. When you're actually running their card and ringing them up, then you can capture that. Then, as far as getting other people on your list that aren't buying from you, I'd love to know if anybody has any recommendations. I think it's tricky, especially around a holiday show, because the
booth is busy. You're wanting to get in and out, all of those things. I think if you can make it into a if you're doing something special with those emails or something, like letting people know that it gets them something too. That, you know, if you have a sign with it that says sign up for our email list to get, you know, obviously to get notices. I think notices of sales, notices of whatever, like, I think that's helpful too, so that they can, if they're, especially if they look like they're browsing and maybe like kind of interested, then you can kind of say, you know, make sure to sign up for our email newsletter for sales, or if you're doing special show prices, say I'm going to give everyone that signed up today the show specials, you know.
Another thing you can do, so Matilda, I know it's hard because you don't necessarily want to be giving away product all the time, and you also don't want to sacrifice an in-person sale in order to get someone on your mailing list. Like, you don't want to say like sign up and get 20% off your next order, because then they'll be like, okay, well,
yeah, exactly.
But maybe you could do, because they'd be potentially doing an online order, you can do free shipping.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Something like that.
I've had it too, where I've decided that I don't want to get a candle at a show or something right then and there because of whatever. And they're like, oh, you know, and that, you know, candles are heavy, especially. And they're like, oh, we'll do free shipping, you know, later. And then that's worth a lot to me too, because then I feel like, okay, I didn't have to just be at this show and make exhausted decisions even after.
Brandy says she gives people 10% off an order right there if they tag her on Instagram. That is really clever. I like it. I like it a lot. The other thing you could do is offer a free gift with purchase. Is another way that you can incentivize email signups without hurting your in-person sales, but still, you know, give people a chance to sign up with an incentive that's not going to break your bank. basically. It's a lot easier to stomach shipping costs than it is, completely free product. Does anybody else have any other questions? If you're thinking about it, when you're typing, go ahead and pop it in the chat or use the ask a question button. I'm going to add a little link. I'm going to send you away with a little joy. Sharon reminded me of a wonderful video.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. Y'all are going to love it. What you guys
need when you are at the end of the show and you're glazed over and you just remember this eternal wisdom from YouTube. You might do it as service is selling, selling is service, you guys.
Service is selling, selling is service. Watch it all the way through. It gets better. And hopefully it'll give you a little laugh and make you feel a little bit more comfortable with your holiday craft show sales. All right. Well, if that's it for the questions. Oh, YouTube. Always good for something, for a laugh, I guess. Yes. Thanks for joining us. We will have a new batch of YHB TV episodes coming to you for the month of November. Our theme for November is self-care. We've got a lot of great topics we're going to be talking about there in our podcast, Your Handmade Business. You can find that on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you find podcasts, and our newsletter and all kinds of good stuff. So thank you for joining us. We'll send out a notice once the registration for November's episodes are up. And I hope you have a wonderful day. You've got this. You're going to do amazing. The shows are coming. It's starting to get a little crazy for the holidays, but we're here for you. Never hesitate to shout out if you have questions. We always love to help.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.